Want to get creeped out? Let's talk about someone who tried the solo version of the Raven Man ritual. And for storytelling purposes, we will name this person Chantelle. If you don't know what the Raven Man ritual is, I have a video explaining it, but essentially you are summoning this terrifying, powerful entity into a salt circle and asking this entity to either do favors for you or to grant you knowledge. It is also said that the Raven Man can return to you after the ritual has been completed and ask for a favor in return. And that favor might be something really terrible that you don't want to do. By the way, my name is Megan. I'm a paranormal researcher and investigator, as well as a folklore researcher who loves to deliver spooky, creepy content to you. So if that's something you dig, follow me. Duh. Now, this story is a pretty wild one, so buckle up. Chantelle was in her late 20s and for the past few years had been experiencing debilitating migraines. And anyone who's had a migraine knows that it's hell. Chantelle did everything the doctor suggested. She tried to live an active and healthy lifestyle. She tried to stay away from things that can cause migraines like caffeine. She tried to live a life that wouldn't cause her stress because even stress can bring on migraines, but nothing helped. She had them all the time and she honestly felt like her life was just being ruined. It was also weird to her because she had never been one to get headaches, but now in her late 20s, she was experiencing these migraines when she'd barely even had headaches before. Chantelle tried every med that any doctor could think of prescribing her to try and minimize at least the amount of migraines she had, but she would have them all the time, multiple times a month. She would miss work for it, and eventually her employer wound up firing her for missing too much work. She was feeling desperate, and she had started to look into other means, other ways that she had never thought of to try and get rid of these migraines. She had tried going to holistic healers, naturopaths. I don't know, sorry. She tried cutting certain things out of her diet. She tried everything and eventually moved on to trying things that were spiritual and calling upon different deities or entities that were there that were supposed to help you with health and well-being. But still, nothing was helping, and she had started to miss the mortgage payments on her house. So things were not looking up. She was thinking she was going to have to move in with her parents, which she absolutely did not want to do. And on top of that, she just felt like she had no quality of life at that point. She stopped making plans because she figured, I have to cancel half of them anyways, and everyone gets irritated with me. They think I'm like making this up. She honestly just felt so defeated. One night when she is researching what you can do to gain certain things, she starts reading about different rituals, and she reads about the Raven Man ritual. So she thinks to herself, maybe I can call upon the Raven Man and ask him for the knowledge on how to get rid of these migraines. But as I've discussed in a previous video, it is said that number one, you might not even see the Raven Man, so you might not even know if the ritual is going correctly or not. And number two, the Raven Man will give correct answers, but they might be very cryptic and reminds me of, one of those 8 balls that you shake and it tells you some bullshit. You know what I mean? Now, because Chantelle was truly experiencing desperation and just lack of quality in her life, she was performing any rituals or any task that she thought could get rid of these migraines very much to a T. She was doing everything by the book. So she started on a cloudy, moonless night. She drew the curtains. She made sure there was absolutely no light shining into the room from anywhere. And she held a rosary that her mother had given her as her object of protection or her talisman. Now, Chantelle drew a circle of salt, which was for the Raven Man to be summoned inside of, not for her to be in. She lined up her 5 candles and started with lighting the first 4 and saying the incantation. She lit the first one and said, on this dark night, I call upon the Raven Man. She lit the second one and said, appear before me here and now. She lit the third one and said, and do my will, and then lit the fourth one. She pierced her finger and put what came out of it onto the 5th candle while saying, the flame is my beacon, plasma is my sacrifice. And she lit the 5th candle. I told you this one was wild. Chantelle claims that she indeed did see the Raven Man. She described him as extremely tall and hooded with a beak coming out of the hood. She said she could see him pretty well with 5 candles lighting the room, but she couldn't see his eyes, though she sensed he was looking at her as she was looking at him. After a while, she realized that she needed to say something. She needed to either ask for knowledge or ask the Raven Man to do something for her. She said, thank you for appearing. I only have one question. question, I suffer from debilitating migraines. How can I get rid of them? She said the Raven Man responded in a booming voice.
Dig where the roots meet.
Chantelle knew she wasn't going to get any more from the Raven Man. She had read everything about this ritual, and she knew that his response would be cryptic and that it was going to be something that she would have to figure out. She thanked him for his knowledge, thanked him for appearing, and then started snuffing out each candle while saying, I release you now, Raven Man. She used a broom to clean up the salt and then took that salt and sprinkled it along all of the doors leading into her home. She kept the rosary her mother gave her on her at all times for the next week and a half until she felt absolutely certain that the Raven Man wouldn't be returning to ask her for a favor in return. During that week and a half, she tried to figure out what this cryptic knowledge meant. Dig where the roots meet. She had 4 trees in her backyard. 2 of them were pretty close to her house, and 2 of them were a bit further away, but both pairs of trees were like close together. And she immediately thought, I need to dig where the roots meet, where these 2 trees meet in the ground. So she went to the trees that were further away and started digging. Of course, she found nothing but more dirt and some worms. You know what I mean? After finding nothing, she started to dig at the trees that were closer to her house, which was much harder to do, and it took a lot more time and effort. And again, she found nothing. For another week after that, not knowing what to do, she would stop if she saw somewhere that had 2 trees that were close together, and she would remember to go back there at night when no one was around and to start digging. But of course, there was nothing else she could find. She was not coming up with any answers. She started researching what has roots. And of course, things came up like teeth, hair, and she's thinking, okay, this could be something. Maybe I have something going on with my teeth that's causing migraines. It sounds plausible. She went to the dentist. There were no issues. They couldn't see anything wrong with any of her teeth. She had a couple cavities that were small and they filled them and nothing changed. It had been a month since she had done the ritual and still had no answers, but she knew there had to be an answer because she saw the Raven Man. Anyways, one night she was in her basement bringing clothes down to the laundry room to do her laundry. As she walked through the basement and had her eyes on the ground, she noticed a little bit of brown poking through at the very bottom of one of the walls near the floor. It's important to note she rarely spent time in this basement as well. This wasn't exactly a nice basement, and any time she spent in there was really just to do her laundry. Anyways, she sees this little piece of brown poking through. So she grabs a screwdriver, not really knowing what to do, and goes to start to pick at the wall that's just near that brown piece. And immediately when she gets close to it, she can see that it has bark. When she goes to chip off some of the drywall near that root, the screwdriver just goes right through. It's soft. There is clearly water damage to the wall. What winds up happening? She tells her parents. They know she's in a very terrible money situation. She's like, I'm going to lose my house. Please help me. I don't want to lose my house. Her parents are able to take out a loan to help her pay some of those months of her mortgage that she missed, and they pay a contractor to go and investigate what is going on with that basement wall. Well, it turns out that there was a ton of water damage. There had been roots growing through the wall, growing through the foundation, and allowing moisture to get inside, which caused black mold. And it turns out that people can get really bad migraines from black mold. So she went to stay with her parents for a few weeks while a restoration company got all of the mold removed and everything fixed. She moved back home and stopped having the migraines. I have seen some crazy shit, but I can't lie and say that it's not hard for me to imagine someone seeing a literal man in a robe with a beak appear in their circle of salt. But I have seen some really crazy shit. So who am I to judge and who am I to say that this person's lying? Anyways, what do you guys think? And also, if you're like, I could have a haunting, I have some haunted dolls that I'm now getting rid of because I have so many. So if that's something you'd be into,